Hey guys!
Hi. Second episode fever coming at you.
Oh yeah, this is episode 8, and this, remember, you guys, normally we bundle record 2 episodes at a time, and this is the second episode, so second episode fever.
Woot.
Let's see how well we can do
fun.
it.
No, I'm excited about
This
this
is, it's
episode.
pretty early though, so like in the day that we're
That is
recording,
true.
and
That
other
probably
times
helps.
we did it was at night. And it was really dark, so I feel like that didn't help.
We're literally just sitting in the dark, delusional. I don't even know. Just a little delulu. But we are so excited for this episode. I hope you guys have had an amazing week. Sorry for you guys had to wait another whole 7 days to hear us again. I don't know how you did it, but you made it.
How you got through.
But you made it, and we're so glad you're here. We're so glad to be talking to you again. And let's just dive right in.
High and low. We have another episode of joint high and low tides.
Yes, because me and Hannah, we're just like so connected, and
we are.
You know what we bond over is the
I
good
think
and
it's
the bad
mostly
together.
because we forget to think about our high and low tides until we're together.
And we're like, oh my gosh, you remember when this happened?
High and low tide. So let's do our high.
Yes.
Which was
Pretty much what the whole last episode we kind of talked about. That was
Oh my
before
yes.
the CrossFits.
She came to work out with me.
Yeah.
I just love it. It's so much fun to like get to share something that you're so passionate about with the people around you. And like, again, it's the same thing with like the Tesla game where like I show you and then like you're just as into it as I am.
Yeah.
And it's like to show someone something and then to have them like enjoy it.
Yeah, that's so
It's
fun.
very rewarding, and it's like, let's see.
I'm so grateful too. I'm getting put on and all this stuff, the pita chips, the fudge, all the food, and of course,
I'm like,
Tesla game,
I'm like, just
CrossFit.
come with me. I'll show you the world that I know.
Come hither.
With pita chips.
The
and-
opposite of gatekeeping. I love
I
it.
do. I don't like to gatekeep.
Yeah.
When I
love
find
it so
something I
much.
love, I'm like, let's go. Let me show you what I like.
Yeah. So that's kind of our joint high tides.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I, again, so grateful I got to go.
You're a
Counting down the
CrossFit queen,
days till
though.
next first Friday.
You're a CrossFit
May.
queen.
And I'll
now.
be right on my birthday. My birthday's next month. Birthday's on like a Monday.
Birthday
or
CrossFit.
something.
Let me see what the actual day of the buddy day will
Yeah.
be. It'll be May 3rd.
May 3rd. So
May
a
3rd.
little pre-birthday CrossFit, which I'm so stoked for.
exciting.
But yeah, so that's our joint high tide. And then our joint low tide.
It's so incredibly
It's
stupid.
so stupid, but this is a lot.
Guys,
like I
for
switch
whatever
off trying
reason,
sometimes.
when we play pickleball together, so we played pickleball together last night, and whenever we do, this happened the last 2 times we played together and we're partners, for whatever reason, we start talking in a British accent.
Yeah,
And we
don't
don't
know
even talk about it.
we just
It just
start
starts.
happening. One of us just says something, and then the other just building, and then we can't stop it.
No, once you start, you literally, it's like physically painful.
No, literally, it
to
hurt.
stop.
Like last night, like when we were like I was like, all right, we gotta stop, and like I felt like I was a British person trying to do an American accent
Yes,
at that point. Like you just
literally.
get the rhythm, like.
But what's so funny is that some of the other people that are in our group literally started talking in a
Yeah.
British accent. Like we
it
were
was-
trendsetters.
Like it was spreading. Like
but
everyone
it was
was
so
doing
bad
British
because
accents.
I know, first of all, we're really loud. And we were like screaming bloody. That was so mental. Like, I
somebody-
know.
Oh my gosh, I remember saying something and it was dead silent after. I was like, Anna, kill me now, kill me now. It was like in British.
I
It was so
know.
obnoxious. It was so obnoxious.
So obnoxious. I know other people in the court were like, can you please stop talking?
up.
There's going to be people from the UK out there one night, and we're going to fully offend them. Like,
like, hello, love.
I'm like, can you get me my bottle of water?
We're like, what? Anyway, but yeah, so even though it's a low tide that we couldn't stop and we're like low-key embarrassing ourselves.
It's also kind of a high tide because it was so fun.
Exactly.
And we were trendsetters.
But we
But
were
also, like, it's
trendsetters.
literally like a disease, and I can't stop.
No, actually. Like, even when we split up, I had like one game at the end, like, value, I was still doing a British accent. I was like, this is who I am now.
Some
who I
people are
am
like,
now.
what is up with the accents? And I'm like, why don't you have one?
Yeah, like, get on our level.
Come on now.
So
Come
fun.
on.
Gotta
So
love,
much fun.
gotta love pickleball. Gotta love pickleball. Also, a low-key high tide from when we talked about like the busyness of the courts.
That's right.
No, we're
Guys,
gonna
the
talk about
court,
this with
it
the
was
combo.
it was my theory that it was just spring break fever.
Yeah.
Because different schools will have spring break on different weeks in March. And I was telling me, I was
Cleared
like,
up a
I
little
feel
bit.
like once it hits April, hopefully it'll die down. Because it was ridiculous, like how busy it was.
annoying.
And it was finally dead, like no
So
paddle
annoying.
system by the end of the night. We were like the only ones out there by the end of the night. which is how it should be.
Yes.
So
the good days again. Yeah. So good. But yeah. So
good news really all around, I'd say.
All around. We're doing well.
We have no listeners after this episode because of our accents.
All our UK listeners backed out. They're offended.
I don't think we have any UK listeners.
Not yet. Until
the
they
power
listen to this episode.
of
And then,
yet.
yeah, until they listen to this episode, then they're done.
So
I feel like mine goes in. I don't think mine's real British. Mine's just an accent. Like I feel like it's low key. Like sometimes Australian. Sometimes like
yeah. Sometimes you just goes, oh, I'm getting tired. An Australian vibe.
Yeah.
I can't do Australian. I can do. I feel like a good amount of accents. I can't do Australian.
Wrestle alligators when I was younger.
That's good.
Thank you. Thank you.
The only thing I can say in Australian is
Nor,
clear, and crikey.
Shrimp on the Barbie.
That's it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So we're acting just queens, I guess.
I guess so.
So if you guys are ever pickling and you just hear obnoxious British accents,
it's
maybe
probably
us.
Come out and play pickleball with us.
Maybe us. Anyhow.
Mia, hit me with the mana.
Oh, I'm gonna hit you with the mana. All right. So, I feel like I love like when we introduce the topic as if they don't already know what it is. Looking on it and like the hype behind it.
Sometimes like I'll see YouTubers do that where like they like I saw the name of the video, that's why I clicked on it, but like they're like, wait until this video and what it's about in the video, and I'm like, no, I already know.
Like I actually am
but
aware,
they don't think about it because you're recording it before you've done that.
It's true. It's hard to think
of.
But
guys, now that we're influencers and creators,
we're
it's a different life now.
We're literally on top of everything.
We get it.
But yeah, so before we get into obviously what you know this is gonna be about, we wanted to talk about just the whole idea of like consuming media, whether it is from like childhood shows or even now, whether it's like music, you know, even if it is podcasts, not ours, you know, not ours of course, but you know, just podcasts in general, or
any
just
type of media, whatever you're letting your eyes and ears tune into.
Yes, and that is just so huge, and something, you know, the Bible talks about just being aware and having that discernment over is a huge thing. So diving into it, the verse that kind of came to mind is that Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Everything.
Because whatever you allow in is what you're going to be pouring out. Yeah. It's very similar to like, similar but obviously different to like reaping what you sow. Whatever plants or whatever seeds you are planting, that is the fruit that you are going to bear. Right. Whatever you're allowing into your heart, thus will pour from your heart, you know?
I mean, and if you think about that, like even like unknowingly, like with movies and stuff, like I'm definitely that person. Like after I watch a movie and like I love the main character
all the time.
Yeah, but I'm like, I'm her and I want to change my entire personality to be like her. Like I remember watching the Black Widow movie and like her sister, I was like obsessed with her.
Oh my gosh, Elena, I'm obsessed.
I'm obsessed with her. I immediately wanted to, like, you know how she has all those ear piercings, like I'm gonna pierce my ears, I'm gonna braid my hair, I'm gonna go crazy.
Not the accent. Sorry, guys. I do the same thing, like sometimes not in necessarily a bad way, but like, you know, when I watch a movie with like certain jokes and certain humor, or they talk a certain way, I start to pick up. I pick up on accents and like the way that people talk. Like if I'm hanging around someone, oh my gosh, like Barcelona is a good example of being around Chelsea saying real. And now I started saying it ironically, and now it's definitely unironic. I just say real all the time. I'm like, real. Like I say all the time. And it's so whenever I am hanging around a certain people, I start to act like them.
It's so true. Like that's what I'm saying. So even if it's like
a dang parrot.
But again, even if it's not like, it doesn't seem like it has a negative, like whatever. Most of the time, you know, it doesn't, especially with like just like random slang, whatever, like it's just all good fun. But then you can just realize like, oh, if I can pick that up so easily, like imagine like all of like the negative stuff that you might be picking up and taking in, and you're not even realizing it, and how that impacts your life.
Which is why parents, please be cautious, especially as a teacher. Like, you know, you see it, like the media that little kids take in,
they just
huge impact.
Their mind, little sponges. Yep.
So it's very, but you know, obviously, especially for children, but still as an adult, like I notice, you know, for me, if I listen to a lot of explicit music, it's easier to be explicit with my language.
So true. Yeah.
You know,
versus what or even just like,
and not even on purpose, so you don't even realize it.
Yeah. No, even just like song, you know, I think recently, speaking of like music, and I think we even wanted to like have a whole episode just talking about like the power
and impact of music.
Yeah, but because Olivia Rodrigo, I'm a big O-Rod girl. I love her.
She's good.
And I've definitely, because like obviously just all secular music, you know, I definitely try to pray, like having that just like, you know, we talk about like discernment. It's just kind of like having that, if something, you know, that sensitivity to the spirit, if something is not necessarily something you should be listening to or taking in. And sometimes, you know, it might not even be super obvious, but it's just one of those things where I don't feel great about this. It's probably like, it's not even worth like the enjoyment, the little bit of enjoyment from it, if it might have like negative impacts I don't even know, like I don't even know about. And that actually happened because I love her music, but she has one song that again I love, and it's really called like Jealousy and I'm like, oh my gosh, literally me. But the more I listened to it, the more I was like almost like pitying myself. I'm like, oh yeah, that is me, you know what I'm saying? And it just kind of gets in my head like, oh, I am like such a jealous person.
Well, and it's the same.
And you just fall into that. But it's just a cute song. Like I love listening to it. But it's like, okay, it's not worth it.
The power almost. Too, like when I listen to songs that are like all about being confident, I feel so much more confident. So you can use it. You can use it to positive benefits, but just be aware of the negative ones. And it doesn't mean that you can't listen to that song.
No,
right?
yeah.
But it just means to be aware. Be aware of that and be aware of yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just kind of
and it's the same thing with the TV shows that you're watching.
Yeah.
And like getting into the darker side of those things, and also understanding as believers, I just lost the word I was going to use. The culture and the place of where the media is coming from, i.e. Hollywood, and understanding the satanic roots,
darkness around it,
truly darkness that surrounds Hollywood and their purpose and why they produce the things that they do,
right?
And being weary of that and understanding that there is an agenda to everything. Back into conspiracy theories. There is an agenda to everything, and there are a lot of really dark things happening behind the scenes that we as Christians need to be aware of, and we need to monitor what we are.
It's guarding your heart.
Yes. Yeah, like what you're allowing in.
Yeah.
And because this, I mean, it is kind of a conspiracy theory, but it's not. But they try to desensitize us to things, right?
So literally what we're talking about from the moment you're born, like those shows the media are taking in,
and they try to desensitize you to things that, oh, well, that's not really all that bad. It's in every movie, it's in every song, it's this and this and this, and it's like, no, like, take it for what it is. It's not good. You shouldn't be allowing that into your life, and just because it's popular probably is even more reason to avoid it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? True. And if you take a look...
Why is it so popular? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to get into music too much because that is a whole...
It's true. But like the whole concept, but, like you're saying, like just Hollywood in general, how they work through shows
and movies,
like
the
we're
people
talking
that
about.
They're hiring.
Yeah. Like it's just... What I think is crazy too is like the Bible was crafted so long ago, and the fact that like verses like this still apply. Like especially, what is this? Proverbs. When Solomon was writing this, he wasn't thinking, oh, you know, Olivia Rodrigo's song, you should guard your heart. You know what I'm saying? But it's just kind of like the word is living.
It's timeless.
It's living. It can apply to your life now, and that we can take the wisdom and actually, you
100%.
know, you know, kind of just apply it to our lives and have that awareness, guarding our hearts, and how truly wise and practical that is for us even now.
I agree.
It was written so long ago.
And I think one of the, getting into the meat of what we're talking about today, I think one of the best examples that kind of lifted the veil, what is it, like the wool covering the eyes, is that the term?
No idea. Blindfold.
Yeah, there's like an old timey saying, like the wool, taking the wool off of your eyes, was the Quiet on Set documentary. And we know it was released, you know, probably a couple weeks ago by the time that this drops. It's more relevant now at the time that we're recording it, but I want to keep it relevant because that was huge. It was so heartbreaking to have your childhood like tainted in a way. But it's really important to discuss because this was not even media for adults. This was media intended for children.
Yeah.
With children being affected by it. And to see the dark side of yes, children's TV, but also just media in general, the people that are working on these sets and their intention behind what they're trying to do. And if you haven't watched it, I think it's on HBO.
It is, yeah.
Please watch it. It's tough at some points. It's tough, but we need to be aware of those things, right? Like, we shouldn't just avoid something because it's hard to, to swallow. You definitely need to be aware of what these people went through. And I think it's good because I hope that this prevents stuff like this from happening.
When it's brought to the light, people know to, like, pick up the signs.
And this is where laws will get put in place and more preventative protocols and stuff will be put in place.
That things like that have to be done. Yeah.
Yes, we're a very post-active society. We're not proactive. We don't do things beforehand. We wait until disaster strikes in order to actually
pick up the pieces. Yeah.
Like, we're not very preventative. We are reactionary.
Yeah.
Which sucks. And it's tough because people have to get hurt for us to realize that we need to make things safer. You know. But if you haven't watched the documentary, it's based around Nickelodeon, which I grew up watching Nickelodeon, right? And talking about the creator, Dan Schneider, a lot, and then also some of the other producers of the show, like Brian Peck, a lot too, with Drake and Josh, and things like that. And that the kids that were on the show were be abused in multiple
different
ways. Some of them very, very dark. And starting to show how some of the jokes on these kids' shows were not
appropriate at all.
For children audiences. And I understand, like, some in Disney, like, there's very subtle jokes that you don't get until you're an adult, but they're not really inappropriate to me. Like, as a kid, like, it's totally over your head. I can't think of one off the top of my head now, but but some of these ones in Nickelodeon were just nasty. It was wrong. And it sucks because, like, Victorious was one of my, like, I watched Zoe 101. Drake and Josh was one of my favorite shows. Like, I grew up watching these things, and I remember even as a kid, like, some of the scenes being a little weird.
Yeah, but again, you don't really know what's going on, and I think it's so it's just so hard to think about too, is like, because the actors, obviously they're older when they're doing it than when we're kids watching it. And the fact that they probably, I've seen, like, obviously clips online and stuff of just, like, you can see the hesitance, like, like, they know what they're doing, but you're stuck in that position, they're being used and abused.
Well, right, and that's the thing, because the emotional abuse of, like, if you don't do this, you're losing your job.
Yeah.
And there was so much pressure on some of these kids to be the providers for the family.
Yeah.
Like, if you lose this show, you're not going to make any money, and then your family is done. Like, you have no source of income.
Like,
and the amount of pressure putting that on a child's shoulders, that they're a weight that they were never supposed to bear.
Yeah, and then they're literally, like, stuck to those chains, you know what I'm saying? Like, they have to follow through, whether like, they have that just power over them now, is like, if you don't do this, then everything's being taken away. So they give them a very little choice there.
Well, so then the creator, Dan Schneider, he came out and did an interview about his reaction to the documentary, which it was so biased. Like, they didn't ask any actual tough questions. They totally, like, let him paint himself as a victim and get away with like, it was so disappointing. But one of the things he was saying was, like, I never knew that any of the kids were uncomfortable. I wish they would have told me. And so one of the girls, she was on Zoe 101, I believe. She has a YouTube channel, and it's all about talking about
Nicole, right?
I think so. Yeah. And she talks about her negative experiences with it. So she did a reaction to his interview, and she was like, yeah, Dan, you didn't make anyone feel that they could come to you if they were uncomfortable. Yeah. You would have fired them.
Yeah.
You would have yelled at them. And these were children at the time. So how can you sit here and say, no, I didn't know. I wish you would have told me. No, we couldn't. You did not allow the environment to be an environment in which people could tell you that they were uncomfortable.
Right.
And so all of that just to say is that to be wary of what you are watching and understanding where it could be coming from, and also, like, the people the actors and actresses that you're watching and understanding the background that they are coming from and the media that you are consuming and some of those subliminal messages that could be not beneficial to you or your spiritual health. And I think especially for kids too, is like parents need to, anything that you are allowing your kid to listen to and watch, you need to watch. You need to listen to first. Because some of these kids shows these days are wild. The amount of propaganda, the amount of, like they're definitely trying to, what's the word? Like they're trying to manipulate you into believing certain things and desensitize you to certain things. They know,
like we were saying before, like the sponge, like the kids' minds, like they know it, and that's what's so evil is that like they're intentionally going targeting after kids. What they can manipulate more so, you know, because they don't have as much.
Yeah, and even as adults, I think we brought it up again in the conspiracy episode where it was like, you don't think that they're using your favorite actors and actresses and characters to push certain agendas? Like, you're naive.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like you are. Because they absolutely know the kind of power and control that these people have, and they're using that.
They all, like nothing is by accident when it comes to that stuff. Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And it's just, gosh, that documentary was just really, really powerful. It was really, really well done. And I just think a lot of people need to be aware and guard your heart.
Yeah, like very eye-opening. And one of those things where, I don't know. It's hard too, because then it's like almost like you want to say in ignorance. That whole like ignorance is bliss. Not even just with like this Quiet on Set documentary, just in life, you know. It's easier to kind of just stay in the dark, but then that's when things stay in the dark, like so many people, like more people get hurt from it, you know. It's just kind of that.
Well, we were talking about you know, now as adults seeing some of the effects that we have had from the TV shows that we grew up on. And it's not to debash any show in particular. There was just there was a different culture in the early 2000s when we were young and or growing up. There was a different culture that was in almost every single movie, in almost every single show. And I want to say particularly targeting girls when it comes to beauty, when it comes to standards.
Yeah.
And so as someone with eating disorder and that past in history, you know that the early 2000s was peak anorexia. Peak. The style emphasized it. The low rise, everything.
Just who was being idolized at that time.
Who was being idolized at that time, looked, yes. And the way that the style that showed off very, very thin figures. And only, you know, the clothing that was popular was really only suitable for people with absolutely no body fat on them, which is not healthy.
Yeah.
And if you are someone like, you know, like myself that has been a part of that, like you know that early 2000s were known for that in a really, really dark way. And that influenced our culture because I'm telling you, go back, watch any like early 2000s to like, I would probably say maybe like 2010 is when things started to slowly shift. Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, and any of like those like rom-coms, like Mean Girls, Legally Blonde, any movie of that sort, and take a look at what kind of messages you think that they were trying to send out to little girls at the time.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest ones is like Wizards of Waverly Place. Yeah. One of my favorite shows of all time. And there was this big thing back in that time where like you would have like the bigger best friend. And how toxic of a diet culture that they were pushing at that time for us to think that Jennifer Stone, who played Harper, the best friend of Alex, was big. I remember as a little girl thinking that. And it's just the way that they set the character up, the way that they talk, the way they dress them is totally different from the super thin main character.
Yeah, and the fact that they were never, even if they weren't big, but the fact that they made you think that and that they weren't the main character. Like,
yes.
They couldn't be
You're always
going
to be the side.
Yeah.
And you're never going to be as pretty. And you're never going to be as good. And what's great, she's not big.
That's what I'm saying.
She's normal.
Yeah.
She's literally healthy, normal size.
Yeah.
But we were conditioned to think that was big. Look at the movie
bad.
like The Devil Wears Prada. Or in Mean Girls. Like... in Mean Girls, when she goes to get her dress and they only carry the sizes 1, 3, and 5. And she was trying on a size 5, which is small.
Yeah.
And it was too small for her.
And it was like, yeah.
And they were like basically fat shaming her.
Yeah.
How about the movie White Chicks? Love that movie. But how about the girl in the dressing room? She's trying to grab on to quote unquote stomach fat that's literally not there, calling herself a whale. And Tina the talking tummy. It's like stuff like that where like, yeah, it's funny. I'll laugh at it for sure. But when you're a young adolescent girl soaking all of this in and all of your movies and TV shows are all saying the same thing, is that if you have any kind of fat on you,
it's like have those negative connotations.
It's bad.
Yeah.
You need to be a stick. You need to be ridiculously thin. And anything else is ugly. You're an outcast. You're not as pretty. It's bad.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things, too, where it's not upfront in your face about it. It's not saying, like, oh, yeah, we're tricking you sort of thing. So even now, like watching, it's like, oh, that wasn't really a big deal. Like, I don't know if without that, but it just has that, like, subconscious thoughts. Like,
the fact that I remember those.
Yeah.
Like, because of that.
It just sticks with
effect.
you, and it might not even, again, be, like, you might not know at the time, like, oh, I don't, like, want that now because it's, like, bad in that time. But then when it actually, or if you, again, see, like, any sort of fat, whatever, it just makes it seem like,
And, you know, they highlight it because it's, like, again, it's always the main character of the girl was so ridiculously small, so tiny, and it's always the side characters or
bruise for comparison. Yeah.
Or, like, the Disney villains and the type of physical features that they would give the villains. Take a look. Like, they have bigger noses.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's a huge one. Yeah.
They have bigger noses, and most of the time they're bigger.
Yeah, we've talked about, like, even, like, hair, like, curly hair.
Oh, most of the villains have crazy curls. Also, if you look at, which I love, the Princess Diaries, but one of my biggest beefs with that movie is that they literally, first of all, they put makeup on her, and they took away her curls, and that was how you got pretty. So as a little girl, when I'm watching that, I had curly hair. Growing up my entire life, I hated my curly hair. I still struggle with my relationship with it. And, like, all of the pretty girls in every movie, they had blonde hair. Or, well, not all of them were blonde, but they had straight hair. Straight hair. Every single one. And and that Princess Diaries wasn't the only one. But there's so many of them where, like, they have very voluminous big hair, and that's a negative thing. You need to straighten it down.
That is true. Any makeover and anything, it's usually like take away glasses,
take away
they'll be like, take glasses. Wow, you're
so pretty because
you're so hot now.
You can't be pretty with glasses.
That's what I'm saying. Or even like, we'll straighten your hair, we'll change your style. Like, it's just things like that where it's like, one that came to mind is like, you know, like The Breakfast Club.
Yes.
And I literally can't remember like any of their names, but the one girl, like, her makeover was her completely changing like her style and everything. Like, it just is one of those things where you might not even realize it at the time, but then it has that negative connotation where, like, oh, if I have any outfits like her, those are bad.
It's subliminal messaging.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
Like, oh, glasses, ugly. Curly hair, ugly. If you have any type of body fat, you're ugly. Like, and you're fat, quote unquote, which is so damaging for little girls to grow up with. And it's like, you know, this is just the side of the media that, again, like, we need to just be mindful of what we're watching. And again, it doesn't mean that it's bad to watch those movies, right? I love Mean Girls, one of my faves, right? But it's the sense that we need to just be aware so that we're not allowing those things to affect our livelihood, the way that we view ourselves. Reminding ourselves with how God views us.
Right.
And
building ourselves up with the truth.
Yes. And just understanding, like, this is, you know, whatever culture is praising, it's going to reflect that in the media, and we just need to be aware of it so we don't allow ourselves to go with that current and try to live up to impossible standards that they set up. Because it's funny, because even the women that are the beauty standards, the Kardashians are a great example, right? Because when they started becoming popular, I want to say like around the 2010, 2015 era, skinny was out, and it was all about the BBL and having the big curves, right? So they got massive plastic surgery. I mean, it looked ridiculous, like what they were doing to their bodies. And if you didn't have those types of curves, you were ugly. Skinny was out. Like, it wasn't about the, like, you needed to have curves.
Yeah.
Right. And so then at that point I was in high school. So then it was like I grew up being really thin, and that was praised all the time. And then now all of a sudden I'm in high school, where like all you're thinking about is how you look.
Yeah. If you're building who you are based off of the trends, like,
you'll never be good enough.
Yeah.
You'll never be good enough. And it's impossible to not pay attention to those things.
Of course.
Especially, I can't imagine having TikTok in high school. Man, oh man, am I so glad that I missed that. Oh, it would have destroyed me. But like, then it was all about having those types of curves. And then, but now, if you start to notice, we're going back to being thin, skinny. Yeah.
Have you seen like the comparisons of even Kim Kardashian? Like, she's changing her
what
body
I'm talking
to
about.
the trends.
Yes.
Yeah.
She literally, so Kim Kardashian had these major surgeries done to have these major ridiculous looking curves, and now she like lost weight.
Thin,
I'm almost positive she's gotten some of the implants and the stuff like taken out or reduced, because there's just no way. And now it's like going back to being really thin. And now she owns a clothing brand,
impossible standards.
Skims, that's all about sucking everything in and making everything really small. And it's like, because that's where society's going. And what else is coming back? 2000s clothing, 2000s style, low-rise jeans,
the Y2K. Yep.
Y2K style. The low-rise jeans is coming back in. The tiny tube tops and tank tops are coming back in. And I've even seen this trend, like, where it's like trying to find a Target bathing suit. Like, if you have any kind of curves at all, they're too small. Everything is meant.
Yeah.
It's
I was
all
gonna say, that's
very,
a
very
huge
tiny.
thing too, because you're immediately gonna assume like, oh, my body isn't the right one, or just isn't good enough if like clothes can't even fit you. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's because they're not crafting clothes to
fit you.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you look at the style and the changes in culture, literally, like, I mean, and there's fun stuff that's coming back too, like the tiny purses and the platform like wedges and sandals and butterfly clips are all coming back. But then it's also like a lot of the clothes that really are specifically suited for people with very small bodies. And it doesn't mean that you have to have that type of body to wear those clothes, but that's definitely their target audience for sure, I would say. And you see celebrities going down and the same route, and you will never be good enough. Even the people that set the standards, like the Kardashians, are not good enough for the own trends that they set, because even after all the surgery, they still hella Facetune their photos. I mean, so much. They Facetune their photos, they Photoshop their bodies, because even the body that you've crafted yourself through surgery and everything like that, you're still having to Photoshop and edit when you post, because you're still not good enough. Yeah. And that's the kind of media that we're consuming.
Right. Yeah.
I remember getting really frustrated with Kylie Jenner specifically, because she, for a while, was on that trend, which I don't know if you remember, the trend of the waist trainers. You know what? We should do a whole episode on fitness,
like the myths or
not
something?
Like, I want to do one on myths, but like all of the I don't know how else to say it, like BS products that they try to sell you, like the fat loss stuff, waist trainers being one of them. Like, I could go into a whole spiel on that. Anyway, so there was a period of time where she was posting videos of her working out and saying that she was getting the stomach that she had because she was wearing a waist trainer while walking on a treadmill. Yeah. I'm like, no, honey, you've had surgery. You had a tummy tuck.
You paid for that, yeah.
Please, like, but little girls don't know that.
That's what I'm saying. So they're comparing themselves to these billionaires that are
who have all this
paying
money
for trainers, surgeries, diets, nutritionists, everything, and then obviously you're not going to have the same access to that. So you're going to look different. You're going to beat yourself up. Like literally, their livelihood is made on just like girls like just comparing them. Like, they're building just impossible standards.
Yeah, they want you to be insecure. Yeah. That's what their whole market is from. They market and target women with insecurities, vulnerable women that will pay for any kind of quick fix to look like those celebrities. And those celebrities don't even look like them. Yeah. You see them in person, they probably look different. Yeah. And again, like, look at them before they had surgery. Not the same.
Yeah. I want to bring up, too, because it's like, easy to say, like, oh, obviously what they're doing is deemed as, like, bad or something. But that's, people want, like, something to, like, they want to follow, to view people that are better than them, right?
We definitely, like, support it as a society.
Yeah, which I think there's something to that, too. I wanted to just bring it up to, like, even hear your ideas, because it's so true. Like, we're almost promoting that as well. Like, we're the ones supporting...
We're giving into it.
This whole culture, toxic concepts and idea. And even if it isn't through, like, the Kardashians, but, like, the TV shows and stuff. Like, especially Creeps, which is why a lot of the times they made some of the horrible, inappropriate things that they did. Because it gets the tune-in, gets the money. Like, that's what Hollywood's all about. That's what gets the views.
Yeah.
So... it's almost like, where do we go about that? Like, you can guard your heart, but then it's like, if that's what's continuing to be supported, that's what you're going to continue to be faced with.
Even if you click on it for shock factor, shock value, you're supporting it.
It's
like,
true.
You're like, which
even
is
if you
why,
disagree, if you're clicking on it,
but you click on it, you're supporting them, which is why a lot of, like, those like typical, like, YouTube creators or whatever that are quote unquote villains, or like they post really shocking content that they know is not good, but they know you're going to watch it, like Austin McBroom. Literally
cracking me up, bro.
But he knows, like, people are watching because, like, oh, he's having a mental breakdown, he's posting this crazy stuff. People are gonna watch it even if they hate him. People are still watching,
and they know that, though, like,
just for the entertainment's sake. And
he's literally made this whole, like, persona now.
It's definitely fake, and he's definitely doing it for the views.
He's making a living off of it.
Oh yeah,
like it's almost like you can't blame him. Like, they're making millions of dollars off of this craziness and getting the clickbait.
Have you ever heard of the YouTuber Eugenia Cooney?
No, I don't think so.
So Eugenia Cooney, she is a YouTuber. She also is, like, she goes on Twitch a lot, like, plays video games and stuff, and streams on Twitch, and, like, has Instagram. So she is one of the worst cases for anorexia that I've ever seen. I, honest to goodness, I'll have to show you her after. I don't know how she's alive. Anyway, so people have been talking for a long time, like, people interact with her content because it's so shocking. Don't know why she hasn't been kicked off, because it's definitely not appropriate, the things that she is putting out there.
Right.
But there are people in the comments that are like, you guys, the more that you're watching and you're commenting, you might be commenting all these things like, please go get help. Please stop posting. Please, go and do these things.
That's just going to make them post more, because
you're
that's
making her post more.
Engagement.
She's making money. Like, the only way that she is going to, like, get it is if people stop interacting with her content. That's the only reason why she keeps posting, is because people are interacting with it. It's like publicity. There's no such thing as good and bad publicity. It's all publicity. There's no such thing as good or bad interaction when it comes to social media. You know what I mean? I mean, like, there is, like, cancellation where but then people stop interacting with you. That's the whole point of, like, the cancel culture, right? People unfollow, people stop watching, so you're not making as much money, and you're kind of pushed off the internet, and then you stop posting, so then there's nothing for people to even interact with.
Right.
But when people are interacting with your content just to watch it and to comment hate, bro, a lot of these people don't even care, because they're like, you're making me money.
Yeah.
Like, the algorithm doesn't only make you money if you have positive comments. You get paid for the bad ones too. So I literally have seen, like, creators that are like, sweetheart, like, you think you're bothering me? Keep commenting. You're making me money.
Yeah, literally.
Like, my engagement, if it's
you're
high,
still interacting,
then I'm making money. Whether or not it's good or bad engagement, I'm making money. So it's like, just stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
I literally check in on her Instagram every now and then just to see if she's still alive. It's so sad. But I unfollowed, and I don't interact with any of her stuff. And there's even accounts that, like, because she's a very fascinating person, like, her journey is interesting, but there's other accounts that repost her stuff, and I'm like, there are people in the comments that are like, thank you for doing this, because I want to see what she's doing, but I don't want to support her. I'd rather support you who's reposting it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then, like, thousands of people are watching it, so they're not
encouraged to keep doing it. You know what, maybe we should have more clickbait. I'm just kidding. Let's start having crazier titles.
I mean, we kind of did with the April Fools. We should have made the title of that episode our last episode.
We really missed an opportunity there, but we did. We're trying to stay integrity.
We have integrity.
What would the word? Integritus?
No, I've thought about this. It's just humble. Is it?
I don't know. Anywho,
or you have integrity.
Yes, we're having integrity over in ATC. But yeah, no, it's just so crazy. And I did also want to, because when talking about, like, childhood shows too, because obviously they've had such a big impact on my life and most people's lives. One that a show that was on Disney Channel that, again, probably didn't have ill intent, and it was most shows like that, but I would idolize their lifestyles so much. I remember Liv and Maddie was one that I was like absolutely obsessed with, and the whole concept was like they're twins. One loves
sports.
One was sports, and then one was like acting, singing, and that was it.
And beauty too.
Yes, and they didn't like anything. Oh, that's huge.
That was huge.
I was like, wait, that's
huge. If you like sports and you're a tomboy, you can't be pretty.
Yeah,
you can't be into beauty. You can't care about how you look. And if you're a pretty girl who likes the way you dress, you can't do sports. You can't do sports.
That's what I'm saying. That again, it got clickbait. It was a great show. I watched it. I loved it. Exactly. Yeah. But the way it hurt my mind so much, I literally remember I was like, okay, I have to choose. Like, I would have like identity crisis. I'm like, I can either you were having
a Troy Bolton moment.
I was literally having a Troy Bolton moment.
You were.
Not that I was overly skilled in either, but I was like, okay, I have to master one because this is my life.
Or sports.
Like, this is what I have to do. So I literally was like, okay, so sports. I remember like trying to like basketball, and I was like, not really my thing. And then I would try beauty. I'm like, that's not really my thing either. Then I was like, I have nothing. Like, it was to that point. Or even there were some shows where it was that whole like best friends. That was a huge thing on Disney Channel. And so then I would always desire a best friend. And I've even learned now that sometimes I struggle with that whole idea, which is my personality type and how independent I am.
Yeah.
Is that, again, it's not even bad. I'm not saying the shows are bad or their intent was bad, but just, again, being aware how just the lifestyles that they created impacted me because I wanted that so bad, but they don't reflect every personality type ever. They don't reflect introverts. They don't reflect like kind of the different,
or they do reflect introverts, but also in like a negative way.
That's
where,
what
like,
I'm saying. Yeah.
You're not allowed to have any friends and you hate talking and you're not passionate about anything and you just are weird like and you never talk weirdo. And you're alone all the time. Yeah. And it's like, no, I'm an introvert and I'm crazy.
I'm crazy, but
that's so true though when you're talking about like wanting their lifestyle, like, because I know it as adults now it sounds silly, but when you're a little girl, you're a little kid, you're so impressionable, and like when you have a role model, like I remember like people at especially like middle school, there was a girl, whether it was on a show or whether it was in real life, and I idolized them. I wanted to be them, and if I couldn't be them, there was something wrong with me. And there would be like characters on shows with the way that they dressed and the way they looked when they dressed that way and the way that they talked, and I would literally try to imitate that. And then when I couldn't meet that standard, I didn't look good in the way that they were dressing, or I couldn't keep up this fake personality, I felt bad about myself. Or I tried to, because that was when I was like, I mean, I've struggled with comparison literally my entire life. My first time I remember really comparing myself was in 3rd grade. And ever since then, like I've always like, comparison is a really big issue that I have. I compare myself to everyone. I will constantly look at other people and I'm like, what do they have that I don't? And when I find those things, I shame myself for it. Right? So it's like when I was, especially in middle school, like there would be people and I would compare myself to them so badly, and I would literally try to change myself. And I would start to like what they like. Right. I would start to talk the way that they talked and do what they did.
Completely change
because I wanted to be them.
Be like them, yeah.
And not everyone is like that, but there are a lot of kids that are. And these shows know it, and it's why it's so damaging. Yeah. It's why the media is so influential as it is because they know that people will try to live up to impossible standards that they're setting.
And then again, that just promotes that whole hidden agenda because they promote certain things, whether it is clothes or something. Those are the clothes they're going to sell. Those are the clothes that are going to trend. Like it's all one big.
It's all together,
intertwined. That whatever is being promoted, whatever they want you to look like, is going to benefit them in some way.
They're gonna profit.
Like we're all like it's a horrible feeling to feel like you're like just a pawn, and you're. Like, it's working, because they know how impressionable are. They're evil.
when Avril Lavigne really blew up, when we were younger, Avril Lavigne was, like, punk queen, right? Queen. I don't know for sure, because I think I was a little younger, like, when she was really blown up, but I can imagine for people in high school or even middle school. I mean, I don't know if you remember, because I know we're a few years apart, but... like the punk goth stuff got really popular when like she was really popular, like the studded belts and I'm sure like wearing heavy eyeliner. So that would obviously, I'm sure, marketers and brands focused on punk style makeup, because then that's what they're going to make money off of based on what's popular in culture, which is going to influence the clothes that they sell. Like you said, it's all connected.
Yeah.
It's all connected. And they know that they're setting you up to impossible standards, the kind of Photoshop that they would do. Oh my gosh, I'm just thinking another really toxic thing in the media. We're talking about magazines.
Yeah.
The magazine covers that you see.
Man.
I challenge, go to Publix or wherever. Look at the magazines that they have. I guarantee you there's at least 2 that are diet ones, and they still have these type of magazine covers that are out. How to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. Something so unhealthy. How to, like, they have the tape measures around their waist.
Oh my gosh.
How to take off 2 inches off of your waist. How about when they would take celebrities just living their lives and catching them, first of all, paparazzi photos. They're like, it's terrible lighting. You're catching them at their worst point.
Yeah.
You're not posed. You're just a normal human being. Look at their disgusting body. They've completely let themselves go.
Yep.
Like, I can't imagine. I remember it was a big one with Selena Gomez.
Yes, that's
it was a picture of her on vacation, I think in like a turquoise bathing suit. And they literally, or maybe it was pink. I think it was a pink bathing suit. Anyway, the bathing suit maybe was a little small, but overall, it's Selena Gomez.
It's one of those things too. You wouldn't think twice, like seeing him like at the beach.
No,
but
she's gorgeous.
Yeah,
and like totally normal, natural body at that point because she was younger. And they literally, like, I remember it was on Ellen. Like, they blasted her for it.
Oh my gosh!
And they were saying how she let herself go and how ugly she's gotten, how fat she's gotten, and the diets to do to avoid looking like that, and all these things. And
I cannot imagine being Selena. That's insane.
She literally went on an interview and she was like, talking about it, she was like, yeah, in hindsight, she was like, maybe the bathing suit was like a size too small, but she was like, but I didn't care. She was like, these paparazzi photos, like, it's in the worst lighting, you're not posed. She was like, I was just like living my life,
on vacation. Yeah.
And like people, like, can you imagine going on vacation with like your family and people are waiting for you to be in the worst possible pose and moment, and then they take that photo and show your body
everywhere
to the entire world, talking about how fat and disgusting you are and how you've lost yourself. I literally could not live with that.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, again, these kids on these shows, like, the light they were put in, the expectations that were put on them, so like, it's heartbreaking.
The pressure of the kids on the shows, and then the devastating effects of the kids watching the shows.
Yep.
And growing up now, and we have lasting effects from those things.
It's so true. Man.
And they want it.
Thanks to my mom for not sending in my Disney Channel audition.
That's so true.
I'm crying. Thanks, Mom. No, honestly.
I remember when I was little, there was like this modeling company thing that wanted me to like model for them, and we thought about it, and then eventually my mom was like, no, we're not doing this. And I remember being really upset because I was like, well, I want to be a model. And I remember my mom just being like, it's not a good industry for you to be in. And I didn't understand what she meant until getting older. I'm like, oh, thank the good Lord that she protected and saved me from that.
Right. Like, you don't realize it at the time.
No, you think that they're trying to destroy your life and ruin it and keep you away from amazing opportunities, but like, maybe just trust your parents. You know what I mean?
That could relate to even like spiritual things. Like, imagine everything God protects you from.
That's true.
Like, keeping you, and you get so upset, like, what? This is like what I planned.
Tantrums as a toddler.
Yeah, and God's like, I literally protected you from so much. Like, I think God often, like, I don't even know all the things that He's
like
kept
you said,
from.
Sometimes, like, good, it's a blessing that He didn't answer that prayer that I prayed because I wasn't aware of what I was praying for. Yeah,
like, thank the Lord that we have such a good Father.
So just, going to show that we just need to be, there are some media that I think, we need to stay away from completely. And then there are other ones where just have the discernment, be wise about it, understand where it's coming from, and how to not let that run your entire life.
Right.
And ultimately, I think, especially when you're young, you don't have a strong identity. So as an adult, we need to make sure that we are having our identity in Christ and not in what the media tells us, because it's such a slippery slope.
And then, like, even just raising your kids in that same thing, like, knowing your experiences. And understanding, speaking that truth over them, just even others, not even like if it is your future kids, just the younger lives in general, just like having the privilege to speak the truth over them, to tell them their identity in Christ, even whether it is getting involved in church, like the kids ministry and everything, like it is part of our responsibility as the body of Christ to
start laying that foundation,
lead them in,
don't let them get their identity
from the world.
From the world.
Yeah.
please don't. And like, you know, you can't control it completely, but we can try to do the best we can to raise.
And just prayer, you know, just sending, like, letting God know, like, we're inviting you into this child's life, you know, instead of the world's, because they will very easily intervene.
Yeah. So that's deep.
A little deep.
A little bit.
Going back to the accent, a little 360. Yeah. From the start.
Well, 360 though is all the way around.
Okay, JK.
The 180 is...
Well, I don't know if it's 180 because I did go all the way back to the beginning.
Oh, no.
I don't know.
Pardon me. You're correct.
Okay, thanks.
Anyway.
So that's when it gets a little Australian, I think, when I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Anywho.
But yeah, let's just band together as Christians and be wary of what... Because, hey, man, I'm telling you right now, the devil's the ruler of this world. And media is, I think, one of his biggest weapons. And he knows it. And Hollywood knows it, and the government knows it. Everybody knows it.
Armor of God it up. Stand strong. Stand against the current.
Against the current.
Then you'll be good. No, but
guys.
Anyhow, I'm excited for you guys to hear this.
And do.
And all the other episodes and all that we have to come.
Be aware. Take a second longer to think about what you're listening to or what you're watching.
What are you gonna put on after this podcast?
What are you gonna listen to after this podcast?
Just give it a little second thought. Pray about it and
pray.
Yeah.
All right, you guys.
Live,
have
laugh,
a wonderful
love.
Live, laugh, love. Have a wonderful day.
Bye, guys.
Signing off. Bye.
Peace.